What's the number one challenge for businesses today?
Workforce development, attracting, recruiting, and retaining people.
And that's why we created this podcast, designed for the frustrated CEO, the under-resourced recruiter, or the overworked manager, to give you the tools to tackle those WTF moments.
It's time to open another workforce therapy file. And we are still here at the Kentucky SHRM Conference 2025 out of Lexington, Kentucky, and I have a special guest with me today. Mr. Nelson, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Nelson Caudill. I'm an employee benefits advisor with USI Insurance Services. I work right here out of Lexington.
Nice. So when we talk to individuals like yourself, we want to learn as much as we can about what services you're offering to support the companies and the employees. So what is it that you guys do at USI?
Well, I love that question. I can first off tell you a couple things that we don't do.
Awesome.
I get asked a lot, what do you sell? We really don't sell anything. So what we do, really for companies in the state of Kentucky and even nationally, is we represent our clients from a consulting standpoint. So a lot of groups that we work with are typically employers with 100 or more employees. And so oftentimes in their health benefits, health and welfare plan, they're self-funded. And so we actually, on a consulting basis, look at their vendor partners. Okay, oftentimes it's a carrier. You have a TPA, third-party administrator. Sometimes that's done by a carrier as well. You have pharmacy benefit managers, stop loss. We look at all those components. And the simplest way of thinking about it is understanding how their partners, kind of air quotes partners, make money on their plan. And so if you're aware of a lot of things that have happened in our industry, and really especially over the last 12 to 24 months, there's been a lot of awareness around how the money that's made on actually even claims. Okay, so our industry is kind of going through what I think the retirement space went through with ERISA. And so ERISA is a 1974 act. So it's the Employer Retirement Income Security Act, Employee Retirement Income Security Act. But it really had a transformation in 2008 after a Supreme Court ruling. And so our industry is, I think, undergoing a similar, with a very kind of maybe a watershed moment where there's awareness and fiduciary lawsuits. And just a lot of that's had to do with the price of healthcare, the price of paying for healthcare for employers, which obviously a good portion of that's paid by employers and,
right.
and obviously, kind of working Americans. So that's what we do. We help them identify, how those partners are making money, and we feel like those terms are fair, and we help them negotiate essentially a better deal.
So when you think about your services and the benefits to the employees, where do you see that balance in an offering that an employer can make?
No, that's a great question. I think the first thing starts with, are you comfortable and do you understand, again, how much money is being made? And then from a budgetary standpoint, classically in our industry, I'd say over the last 10 years, we've seen a lot of that cost being pushed to employees, right? So we are aware of higher deductibles, higher max out-of-pockets, the push for, HSA as well. And at a certain point, though, I think for a lot of employers, they're kind of bumping into really the Affordable Care Act, ACA regulation around affordability. So now a lot of those groups are recognizing they still have a cost trend for their plan they're uncomfortable with, right? Mm-hmm. And so now they're looking for other strategies. And so what's nice about that for us is a lot of employers, and also just with what's happened post-COVID, right? We've seen you think about kind of how that pendulum swung from being maybe a little more favoring the employer pre-COVID to where definitely post-COVID with kind of the great resignation, right?
Right.
Where employers recognize the value of good employees, right? And they want to keep those employees. So I think for a lot of employers now, they're trying to figure out how to, control their health plan costs and their benefit costs, but they're also definitely pay attention to how do they make sure what they're offering is best in market. And there's some things that we do in that regard, in regards to like benchmarking studies. We focus, one thing that's unique about USI is we're very heavily focused in the middle market. We think employers, typically 100 employees to several thousand.
So what's a middle market? Can you define that for me again?
Yeah, so middle market would be just, again, employers that typically employ, I would say, up 100 employees up to a couple thousand.
Okay.
There's a lot of large national brokerages that are in, kind of Fortune 500, Fortune 100 space.
Right.
But we are very specific in bringing, I would say, the solutions that a lot of those very large employers are looking for, bringing those to the middle market, right?
Oh, wow. That's great.
And so what's exciting about that is, again, for those employers, we have one of the largest benchmarking studies in the country. And so, at least from what the research we've seen, and so it allows them to feel comfortable about where they are against, their industry, their size, and then also just that, kind of location regionality. And so getting an idea from a benefit standpoint of how you stand up against, competitors or against, similar industry. And so it's kind of balancing this idea of, the cost of benefits, right? And what they're going to provide with the cost of turnover. And we're helping our clients, I feel like, make it easier to make that decision and what are they going to do moving forward in the next 3, maybe 5 years.
So while we're here for Workforce Therapy Files, you and I know each other from a few other scenarios that we've been engaged with. But when you think about the overall recruiting needs that employers are focusing on, the cost of benefits, what gets passed on to the employee, I know that there's a rising cost for pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So when you think of how you're going to best support the employer and the employee, what is it that you guys are doing in particular to combat that?
Yeah, and that is a challenging, when I say that, there's a lot of pieces to that to kind of unpack that question. But I'll give you a great example of that just this morning. So I actually work with the union, and we're having conversations around what it would look like for them to begin to cover GLP-1s or some of these weight loss medications for their union members, right?
Right.
But we're also balancing the cost of that because I have worked with and aware of other unions that have tried to roll some plans out like that, and they've seen their pharmacy costs triple in the span of 3 years.
Wow.
And so again, it's balancing this fiduciary responsibility, this cost to keep these plans afloat. And it's the same thing for the employer market, right, and just at large. And so really for us, it's staying ahead of the curve. We have some wonderful pharmacy consultants that work with Nicole Sanfilippo on our team regionally, Mark Sweeney as well. But again, bringing these experts in the room to really begin to dig in and understand, first and foremost, are you paying too much for what you're currently doing, right?
Yes.
A lot of national attention. The Mark Cubans of the world have brought a national attention around how pharmacy benefit managers oftentimes have price medications and what they say they're doing sometimes contractually for their clients. If you think about it, they're saying, hey, we are providing you the best medication at the best cost, very simply. When you're digging in, sometimes that can be maybe argued that's not the case when they're looking at some of the pricing and a way that some of these medications are marked up by the time they reach employer plans. So our job is to go in, look and define those terms contractually. Really some detailed contractual work, understanding those terms, making sure that we feel like that language is best in class, and then really benchmarking that across a variety of different kind of drug categories is the simplest way I think of saying that. So that's kind of one piece of that. You're paying too much for what you have currently, right? But then I think the next idea is to think about, okay, what's coming down around the corner, and how do we make sure as our clients and their employees potentially, what they're interested in benefit offering, how do we make sure that they're going to continue to get the best deal? They can roll out programs. Sometimes those programs have some guardrails from a care management standpoint, so it doesn't, in a sense, begin to push them financially in a direction that puts a lot of pressure on the company and then ultimately puts pressure on the employees even, right? So that's walking that balance constantly. There's a lot of kind of, as you can probably imagine, a lot of detailed, kind of in the minutia consulting.
Right.
And then also because I think the team we have, again, the resources and our consulting teams, and they meet with our national team as well, helping our clients even locally see what's coming around the corner with some of these big topics like GLP-1s and cell and gene therapy medications. And again, there's just so much happening in our space right now.
Wow. So 2 more things before I let you go. One, how do we get in touch with you? What's your name? Where do we go to find more information about you and your company? And then lastly, how often should a company do diligence on their employee benefits?
No, that's a great question. So, you can get in touch with me. I have no idea which camera we're,
Yeah.
Are we
It'll
here?
be
We're
that
here.
camera, but right now we're just on the mic.
So you can get, my name is Nelson Caudill, again. I'm with USI. Easy way to get in touch with me is through LinkedIn. So you can message me through that. I try to put out you'll see a silly video we put out for.
It was great, by the way. I loved it.
So first time doing that, but shout out to Dixon Media that helped us with that. And then as far as the due diligence, if you just look at it fiduciarily, it really, and this has been lined out by the Consolidated Appropriations Act that was put in law into 2021. For most groups, they need to be doing some kind of a due diligence. I would say at a minimum 5 years. I think
Every
best
5
practice
years.
is more like 3.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be RFP.
For that
but
middle
I think,
market.
Yeah, I think what it really comes down to is sitting down and talking with groups and making sure that you understand the benefit. I think for a lot of groups they feel like that is launching a big RFP, which sometimes can be hundreds of pages.
Yeah.
And I know you all have been a part of that, helped consulted on groups doing that. And it's just difficult for groups to understand. Because my question is always, what are you trying to solve? And so I think allowing groups to kind of come in and again, have some actual of your information, right? Not, maybe looking at 3 different vendors at most, and have them come about and talk about how they're going to help you solve those challenges and what they see maybe is coming around the corner as well, so then you know what you're getting. I think that's the best way, I would say, is best practice versus what I sometimes traditionally see, which is that huge RFP that a lot of people don't read, and I know that creates a lot of value. But I love your perspective on that. You do. You're sitting on that other side of the seat.
I would say for that middle market, small to medium-sized company would definitely be every 2 to 3 years, just because, well, one, it's a lot easier with that fewer people, right? And 2, you owe it to the employees. How can you help them lower costs to increase their total bring home? But I'm a fan of that essential worker category and trying to help those guys out as much as possible. So, yeah, that's what I say, 2 or 3 years.
I love that. Yeah. I love it.
But thank you for coming on our show today. We appreciate you.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Enjoy the show.
Thanks for listening to the Workforce Therapy Files. We hope you learned something new, and we're thankful for the time that you spent with us today. If there's a topic you'd like us to discuss, reach out to us. Our contact information's listed in the show notes. Until next time, keep your head up.